Shalom, everybody. We're going to be starting in just a few minutes, but this outpouring of love is what we all expected, quite frankly. But we would appreciate it for those of you who are here now, if you'd find a seat, because we want to make sure that we have enough seats for everyone, and we're going to bring in some more, but we don't know how many more we need. So there are a couple of seats scattered, I believe. And then we can have a better sense of how many to bring in from our social hall. Thank you all so much. Dear friends, if there's a chair next to you that's empty, please raise your hand. Got 2 chairs over here, 1 chair over here. That's it? Okay. Thank you so much. We also have these. Yeah. There's some chairs against the wall over here that are free, if some of you would like to come and sit. Yeah, I just mentioned that there are chairs over here. Those who are standing in the back by the beautiful Chanukia, you can come sit right over here if you'd like. Perfect. Thank you. We have a whole row of chairs here that some of you can come on up and sit. Don't be shy. Come on.
They should come forward too.
We have an extra row of chairs that are right here in the front. I know a lot of people don't like to sit in the front, right? But we promise you that we won't bother you. You won't have to come up and talk. Okay?
Please come up to the front because this man deserves a full house. It doesn't need a lot, just a little.
I'll turn it up as much as I can. Yeah. Okay.
There are 2 more chairs over here. And now if there's an empty seat next to you or you see an empty seat, please raise your hand. There's a seat over here. And there are seats over here against the wall too. We are going to turn on the sound in the social hall. For those of you who don't have chairs to sit, you can go inside there and you'll be able to hear everything. Are we also opening up the door? No, we're not opening the door. Okay. Okay. Okay.
never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
And the child asked, "Tell me of life." And the sage answered, "Life, my child, is a mystery. We do not ask to be born, nor do we even understand the meaning of birth, of creation. We grow and we experience life's pleasures and pains. We love, and slowly, oh so slowly, we come to realize that we have become, that we are. At that moment, we humble ourselves before the mystery of life and quietly say, 'Though I knew not, I have been granted the most precious gift of all, the gift of life.' And the child asked, 'Tell me of death.' And the sage answered, 'Death, my child, is a mystery. It is the inevitable return of the gift of life, the gift which came free to us. We live as the trustee of that mysterious being, or that unexplainable becoming. Yes, you and I are but the trustees of life. We nurture it, we delight in it, we give of it to others. And at the appointed time, we sadly, yet with pride, return it from whence it came. The beauty, my child, is that what we are, what we have become, remains long after the gift has been returned. It remains as a precious keepsake with our loved ones who live on. Shalom. My name is Rabbi Pat Hickman, and my husband, Cantor Ray Hickman, and we welcome all of Bill's loved ones today. As Rabbi Carly Weisbrod Daniels, beloved friend of the family, said to me this morning, Bill would be happy that so many people he loved and who loved him are together today. This is truly our gateway to healing as we come together to honor and celebrate this extraordinary man. I pray that God, the healer of the brokenhearted, will give strength and comfort to the torn hearts of Bill's loved ones and restore them to a sense of life's goodness. Help them to be assured that the human spirit is enduring and indestructible. May the knowledge of your nearness be our strength, O God, for you are with us at all times, in joy and sorrow, in light and darkness, in life and death. It is at this time that we turn to the wisdom of our blessed tradition for words of comfort and healing. Esai Enai, Psalm 121.
Esai Enai, Eharim, Me'ayin, Yavo Ezri, Ezri, Me'im Adonai, ושמיים שמים וארץ. הנה אלוהינו ולא יישן שומר ישראל. אדוני שומרך, אדוני צילך על יד ימינך, יומם השמש לא יכך, וירח בלילה. אדוני ישמור מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך. אדוני ישמור תרה ובואך
We read the translation responsively on page 2 of your handout. I lift up my eyes unto the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from the eternal,
maker of heaven and earth.
God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber.
See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps.
The eternal is your guardian. The eternal is your protection at your right hand.
By the day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night.
The eternal will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul.
The eternal will guard your going and coming now and forever.
Amen.
Amen.
Kohelet wrote in the book of Ecclesiastes, there is a time for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for being born and a time for dying, a time for planting and a time for uprooting the planted, a time for destroying and a time for healing, a time for tearing down and a time for building up, a time for weeping and a time for laughing, a time for wailing and a time for dancing, a time for throwing stones and a time for gathering stones, a time for embracing and a time for refraining from embraces, a time for seeking and a time for losing, a time for keeping and a time for discarding, a time for tearing and a time for sowing, a time for silence and a time for speaking, a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for war and a time for peace. Bill was a lover of all the world's wisdom. At this time, I'd like to call up his sister-in-law, Joy Bayer, who will share with us a poem by Kahil Gibran on death. Thank you.
You would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling that he shall wear the mark of the king? Yet is he not more mindful of his trembling? For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance.
Thank you. So beautiful. Thank you. And one of the most beautiful psalms of all, Psalm 23, is our next selection. So let's all join together in reading that on page 2. With God as my shepherd, I shall not want. Eternal makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, restores my soul. Guide me straight paths for the sake of God's name. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Eternal forever. Our rabbis taught that there are 3 crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. But they emphasize that the crown of a good name excels them all. The book of Ecclesiastes says, Tov Shem Mi Sheman Tov. A good name is to be treasured above precious oil. Wealth, health, even life passes away, but a good name lives forever. It is this view that the Talmud teaches. Monuments need not be erected for the righteous. Their deeds are their memorials. They will be remembered and revered for the kindness they have shown and for the love that they have given. They are shining examples of what it means to be a mensch. And so life is born, and life moves on, and the earth is held and will hold it all. The sun rises and the sun sets and returns again to rise and fall. The wind turns south and the wind turns north, turning, returning still. The rivers run from the clouds to the sea and become the rain, and the sea is never filled. So the beginning moves to the end, and the end flows on to begin again. And the one at the end is the one who begins, and the breath of breaths is within all things. I watched a brave man, vibrant, loyal, loving, tenacious, inspiring man, as his life moved on. Lingering nearby was the woman, the love of his life, Carla, holding and rocking his new grandson, William Bear Hanrahan. So the beginning moves to the end, and the end flows on to begin again. And life begins again for a family bowed with grief, yet uplifted by their deep and devoted love. And the circle continues for Bill Bear. In one breath, a life expires, yet that life continues to breathe deeply within his loved ones' hearts. Who he was, his laughter, his jokes, his character, his attitudes, and oh, so many stories. You will carry on always and forever. From generation to generation, l'dor vador. To his beloved wife, Carla, I grieve with you on your loss and hope that you will find a way to comfort and healing in these coming weeks and months. You created so much together. He made the world beautiful for you. Surround yourself with his love as you hold him within your heart, as you hold your grandson. Fran, I can't even begin to understand how you must feel at this loss. You may cry in your heart that this is not how it's supposed to be. Yet how difficult it is for us to understand how very vulnerable we are. So fragile. It is the truth of our lives. It is your courage that will carry you through this time as your family will look to you for your strength and your incredible wisdom to continue to live life as Bill would want you to. I pray for you every day. Alex and your dear beloved Garrett and precious new boy William Bear and Sam and your beloved Peter will help to carry on your father's legacy. Within you are his authentic and magnetic personality. You are builders too, and I have seen his silliness shine from your eyes. Tell the stories, and may they bring you to a place of sweet peace. Bill had wonderful siblings. Sister Leah Bear and her husband Andy Kaplan, and his brother Stephen and beloved Joy, along with his in-laws Mary and Arthur Moore and brother and sister-in-law Chip and Debbie Moore. It is a testimony to who he was to see his many nieces and nephews and cousins and precious friends, students and colleagues here today. They all gave his life that added joy that shone from his eyes. So where do we even begin to remember, celebrate, and honor this extraordinary man? Let's begin at the beginning and then share some stories and loving memories. So Bill was born in Hartford, Connecticut, to Marvin, who predeceased him, and his beloved mom, Frances Lewis Bear. He grew up in Cocoa Beach, Florida, with his sister Leah and brother Stephen. A graduate in 1977 of Cocoa Beach High School, he enjoyed playing baseball and worked at multiple jobs, including a paper route, at various Orlando theme parks, and at Publix, of course, everybody worked at Publix, where his paychecks fueled a burgeoning passion for aviation through flight lessons. He majored in criminal justice at the University of Florida, and after graduating, he worked as a police officer with the Gainesville Police Department, all the while building up flight time to pursue a career in commercial aviation. Assigned to the Crime Prevention Department as officer friendly, he took his robot, officer friend to you, to the classroom and met a teacher, Carla Moore. They married in February 1985, and their daughters, Samantha and Alexandra Hanrahan, were born in May 1986 and April 1987. He started working at Providence Boston Airlines in May 1986, followed by Eastern Airlines, and then was hired by United Airlines in 1989. He was a captain and flew multiple planes, including the Boeing 787, across every continent, Antarctica excluded. He was a member of and advocate for the Airline Pilots Association. In 2003, in addition to flying for United, he and Carla founded Bear Air, a charter airlines, an aircraft services company composed of a fleet of 12 aircraft, which they did sell in 2014. Bill flew for United until he became too ill in October of 2020. Well, I'm sure many of you know these facts and the flight path of his life, but they are only a sliver of the man. So now let's get into the image of who Bill really was, shared by loving family and friends. We begin with his beloved daughter, Alexandra Bear Hanrahan.
Thank you, Rabbi. Oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. In the summer of 2019, my grandmother, Bubby, Bill's mother, turned 85. And in typical dad fashion, he put together a wonderful beach birthday celebration. And in even more typical dad fashion, he wrote a toast, in the form of a eulogy for his living mother, who is sitting with us here today. While it may seem slightly morbid, it was all things witty, adoring, sentimental, funny, and loving. At the very beginning of the toast, Dad stood up, looked around the table of about 10 people, including a beaming Bubby, and with his megawatt smile said, "Wow, this is not going to be easy," followed by his infectious laugh. As I stand here today and I look out at all of your really beautiful faces, I understand why this was the first line he wrote. Wow, this is not going to be easy. I want to thank all of you for traveling near and far to celebrate the life of a man that words can't do justice, but a few of us are going to try. When I think about the things I loved most about Dad, it's weird that a couple of physical traits first come to mind: his smile and his proceeding hairline. The second thing that came to mind was one dream in life Dad always had. A dream that I fear never came true on earth. Dad always wanted to give a commencement speech at a college graduation ceremony. In fact, before every college graduation we went to, which was quite a few just for Sam alone, he would hope for something to happen to the commencement speaker. Something minor, of course, but that it would leave the university scrambling, and someone would stand up and say, "Is there anyone here who would like to give our commencement speech?" And Dad would get to stand up like the hero he always was, run down to the stage, grab the microphone, and undoubtedly bring down the house with his unbelievable sense of humor, impeccable delivery, and invaluable life advice. I can see it now, the clapping and the roaring laughter, and the cheering and cap throwing when he congratulates the graduating class at the end of his speech. I can also hear his voice as he imparts wisdom on the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed college grads, wisdom that I was lucky enough to be taught throughout my life. If you don't feel like running, go run 2 miles. This was a bit of a Bill Bearism, a reminder that daily exercise, even Ramwad, was important, and that running 2 miles wouldn't take that much time, and you'd feel accomplished afterwards. He wasn't wrong, and I've heard his voice in my head countless times motivating me to exercise. "You're kicking your own ass." Or said another way in classic Bill Bear fashion, "You're not overwhelmed, you're whelmed." Each of these were a way for Dad to remind you that likely the task at hand is not as hard as you've built it up to be. And in fact, your mindset about the matter may be making things even more difficult. Always wear socks to the dinner table. The story here goes, one time, a large group of family and friends were sitting down at the table, and Dad watched a particular individual sit with a bare foot in their lap, touch their toes, and then reach their hand into the community bowl of nuts shared in the center of the table. I won't name names, but that person is here today. So this is pretty simple. Don't touch your feet and touch your food, especially if it's shared. And to avoid the possibility altogether, simply put on socks before sitting down to the table. I'm on the carb diet. I would venture to guess that at some point in the last 15 plus years, Dad said these exact words to each person in this room. While he loved his pork rinds, this isn't so much literally about doing a low-carb diet as it is about telling others what you want to hold yourself accountable for. Dad was a believer in if I tell you I want to accomplish something, you'll help me succeed. In this instance, it was if we sit down to share a meal and I immediately tell you I'm not eating carbs, when the rolls come out, you'll make sure to slap my wrist, so to speak, when I reach for one. I love this mentality as it speaks to the person Dad was. If someone told them something they were doing or wanting to do, he supported them. Just jump in the river. A frequent Bear household activity was spending time on the river. We joke that Sam and I learned to water ski before we could walk. However, no matter how many times we were on the water, when it came time to get in, we were often a couple of chickens, nervous about what we couldn't see below us and acting a little, well, sissy. Dad would always say, just jump in the river. His comfort with the water and his assurance that we would be safe gave us confidence, and inevitably, we would jump in. One of Sam's dearest childhood friends, Elise, was at the house this week, and she and I reminisced about this advice from Dad. Elise remembered tubing with us and asking to pull the tube to the boat so as to easily jump straight from the boat to the tube without having to swim out in the water. In response, she received the same directive that Sam and I had heard so many times. Just jump in the river. Elise said that now she strives to instill in her children that same willingness to jump in that Dad demanded of all of us so many years ago. A few months ago, after we'd found out Dad's cancer had returned and the treatment options left were simply comfort measures, he was standing at the grill and I was outside with him. Unprovoked, Dad looked at me and said, "You don't need to be fearful." Tears rushed to my eyes. At a point when he was facing an unknown infinitely more terrifying than what lurked below the surface of the river, Dad was once again striving to instill in me the courage needed to face what lay ahead and to overcome my fear. Show up to things. Plainly put, family has been at the core of Dad's entire life. His parents, his siblings, his cousins, nieces and nephews, his wife and children. These are the people that he lived for. Whenever or wherever family gathered, Dad knew that it was important, critically important, to be there. Birthday parties, bar and bat mitzvahs, his daughter's swim meets, his nephew's baseball and basketball games, Gator lacrosse games, countless graduations. Dad went to everything. Though family certainly came first, his commitment to being present extended beyond family events. Perhaps some insight into Dad's desire to show up to things can be found in one of his favorite bits of Yogi Berra wisdom. Always go to other people's funerals, otherwise they won't come to yours. Treat your mother with respect. This one may come as a bit of a shock after I shared that Dad wrote a eulogy for his living mother's 85th birthday. However, one of my only memories of Dad getting seriously, legitimately mad at me was a moment in my teenage years when I was being an absolute brat to my mom. Typical behavior, I think, of the relationship between a teenage daughter and her mother, but that made no difference to Dad. In this instance, I was in the kitchen with Mom, giving her the business. And when I walked out of the kitchen, Dad was waiting for me in the living room. Without hesitation, he stopped me in my tracks and said, "You should never, ever talk to your mother that way. Turn right around and apologize." I sheepishly did exactly what he said to do, and then, more embarrassed than actually apologetic, cried and ran to my room. As I grew into adulthood, I've come to sincerely appreciate that Dad and Mom always had each other's backs as parents. When dealing with Sam and I, they were a united front, always. Do a little more for those around you so they can do a little less. When I was 13, I finally weighed enough to drive the riding lawnmower. As soon as I hit this milestone, I would beg to be the one to mow the yard. I have a very distinct memory of Dad weed eating as I was mowing. We were taking a break on the back porch, and Dad said to me, "When your mother mows the yard, I weed eat a little bit more so she can mow a little bit less." Dad regularly did more for others, and I don't mean just in weed eating up and down Old Settlement Road. He took on projects at our schools anytime he saw an opportunity to lend a hand, often without being asked. He volunteered for positions here at Temple Israel and with his Airline Pilot Association at United. He coached our Little League teams, and he was a regular swim meet official. If someone was having a hard time, he would anonymously send them a gift card, help with medical expenses, or assist in countless home repairs without any expectation of having the favor returned. He led by example, and he was willing to give of himself, his time, his talent, his resources, so that others could have a lighter burden to bear. Wax your car, and anything else that you can wax. This makes me laugh, just thinking about how much Dad loved to wax any surface that could be waxed. If you've ever seen my Big Fat Greek Wedding and the dad and his Windex, my dad was that, but with carnauba. This is a pretty simple life lesson. Take pride in caring for the things you own. And this goes hand in hand with Dad's next lesson. Take ownership and pride in the work you do. Admit when you make a mistake, and apologize when you've messed up. I am 100% sure Dad instilled this in me from an early age, but I, and I know a lot of you here today, learned from working for BB at Bear Air. I had the privilege of having Dad as my boss for quite a few years. There was a period of time where I wouldn't have called working for my dad a privilege, but I've reflected back a lot on my time at Bear Air and realized how much I learned and grew as a professional, as an adult, and as his daughter. Dad was tough on all of his employees. He held everyone to the same high standard he held himself, which sometimes seemed impossible to meet. And he wanted everyone to have the same passion for the company that he had. He cared about his employees, he defended them, he supported, and he encouraged them. Mom and I have both received so many incredible messages the last few days with similar sentiments from so many individuals. Bill Bear is the reason why a lot of you have the careers you have. Whether that's a pilot for a major airline, an instructor, or working as a GM for a large FBO, he shaped many of us. He kept us accountable, he taught us how to take responsibility, and he taught us that apologizing for a mistake is not a sign of weakness. I know that Dad is immensely proud of so many of us, but especially the pilots in this room who he had a hand in teaching. You know he's still up there searching for that perfect check ride. In Dad's eulogy toast to Bubby on her birthday, he referenced the passing of his grandfather, Bubby's dad, Robert Lewis, by saying, "Robert Lewis, who passed away after he had accomplished what he came to do, leave this world in a better place by seeding it with 3 loving and caring daughters. Dad, too, has left this world in a better place by seeding it with 2 loving and caring daughters. By creating so much beauty for all of us to enjoy, by teaching so many of us through his actions and his words, by forming deep and meaningful connections, and by sharing love with those around him. I feel so incredibly fortunate to have had Dad as my role model and superhero for almost 35 years of my life. Dad, I am so proud to be your daughter. I'll forever cherish the time we had together on earth, your laugh, your smile, your advice, support, and encouragement. Thank you for loving me, Sam, and Mom so deeply. I'll hear your voice forever telling me to make good decisions, and I'll picture you at the podium bringing down the house at every commencement ceremony I attend. Until we meet again, safe travels, and I love you.
And now, Leah, you want to come up? Okay. His wonderful sister, Leah Kaplan, wants to share something with all of us.
From an early age, Bill was my spokesperson, my front man, my comedian, my friend, my teacher, my brother. I am proud to be Billy Bear's older sister, who my brother called Sis, or sometimes Twisted Sister. I would like to ask each of you to turn to the person next to you, give them a hug, a wink, or a smile. Whether it was a nickname, a smile, or a warm embrace, Bill was generous in his affection for people. He never met a stranger because everyone remembered Bill's exuberance for life, laughter, and banter. He spread light and laughter throughout his life, and his laugh was contagious. Even when I was furious with him, I couldn't stay angry for long. When he was 13, didn't like the chicken I was cooking, he shut off all the circuit breakers in the house, which of course left us in the dark and without dinner. So I don't think he exactly thought through his whole plan. He reconfigured the controls in the car so the horn blasted and lights flashed when I started the engine. He did the same to the Corvette my first boyfriend drove to our house. Probably why he left. My brother Bill, as a younger sibling, could be a pill, yet his heart was always in the right place. And that place in the 1960s was Florida on Brightwaters Drive. A street of some 100 children, a slice of Americana filled with games of chase, watching Apollo launches from the roof or the street, boating, fishing, carnivals at Our Savior's Church. It was a seemingly simple and magical time, and Billy was there, making us laugh and entertained with his antics and storytelling. When I rehearsed for ballet recitals, Billy was there to dance along with me. A tutu wasn't only for girls, he said, and he wore it well. We borrowed, actually more like hot-wired, Dad's Dodge Monaco to deliver the Florida newspaper today. And Bill was there beside me, outrunning dogs that we thought were protecting the condos along the beach. It turned out the dogs were not at all ferocious, and Billy befriended them. When I graduated from high school, Billy was there to hug me and add, "Now I won't have to attend any more dance recitals." But I knew he would follow me to Gainesville, and he did. He charmed my sorority sisters. He was there when the shelf fell on my roommate's head as she was waking. Bill commented, "That's some alarm system you got there." When I worked at Disney World at the Polynesians Hotel, the Luau, he landed a job in the Magic Kingdom washing dishes in the kitchen of a restaurant on Main Street. The costume department handed him a pair of rubber boots and a sponge. He was there. And then he came to Gainesville in the University of Florida, where we shared a car. It was a 3 on the column Plymouth Duster, a junker, but transportation nonetheless that became the brunt of many a joke amongst our friends. No one is going to steal that car because no one can drive it except the two of you. We bonded over pizza at Leonardo's, and he made fun of my boyfriend. "What guy wears yellow shorts?" he said. My future husband, apparently. Yet Bill, the fashion critic, no longer now Billy, proudly modeled plaid trousers that he had bought. I can still see him in my mind's eye, strutting through the Merritt Square Mall as if he were John Travolta in Saturday Night Live. Fashion sense notwithstanding, he had the good sense to marry Carla. A marriage of true minds. Together, they built a life of love, home, and family. I am grateful to Bill for giving me my first sister. As a teacher, he modeled courage, adventure, tenacity, and compassion. He taught me how to overcome fears by climbing down the 520 Causeway Bridge to fish in the Banana River, because he said the fishing was better in the higher bridge somehow. Didn't make sense. He encouraged and pushed me to challenge myself and to always enjoy and embrace the rough waters. Many of you may know of his signal to speed up or slow down when tubing in the river. He often ignored the thumbs up or down and set the boat's course to where he knew we could go. Expect the unexpected with Bill, because life was always exciting in his company. I'll miss his laugh, his love, his presence that filled a room while making each of us feel as if we were the only one in the room with him. I'll see him when I smell chicken gizzards or pork rinds. Sorry, Rabbi. When planes fly overhead and the birds on a dock, in his daughters, in his grandson, or riding into the sunset on a boat. Forever and ever, my darling brother Bill.
Beautiful. Steve, would you like to come up and share?
Okay, I'm going to make it this time. I'm going to tell you. Because Bill would want that. Okay. Okay. All right, everybody. Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for being here today, in person or virtually, to help us celebrate Bill's life. I know you are here to support our family, but it also speaks volumes about the impact Bill on people's lives. I saw a quote that resonated with me recently. When we lose someone we love, we must learn not to live without them, but to live with the love they left behind. I like this quote because it seems to give me a way forward. Okay. Would you mind? I can't.
Would you stay here with
I'm going to stay right here with
Okay.
you.
You're so good. What, do you want to read it?
No, I want you to keep keep going.
I'm
I
gonna keep
want
going.
you to keep going.
Keep going. I'm gonna do it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna do it.
All right. Right there. Stay
Okay.
Right, stand here with them.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Who's staying?
All right, here we go. I like this quote because it seems to give me a way forward by embracing all that he was to me. In the past year and a half since his diagnosis, I've been reflecting a lot on what it means to me to be Bill's brother. So in that spirit, I'll share some examples of my life with Bill and the ways he looked out for me and the fun times we had. These are just a few of the examples, as the list is endless. We talked about the paper route. When he had a paper route in the early days, I was very young, so I never had a paper route. But he had it at the condos along the beach, and he would let me tag along in the mornings. Bill made me a game by giving me the papers to run up and down the stairs, delivering the papers while he sat downstairs and timed me, always pushing me to do better. Of course, he would buy me a hot chocolate at the end. When Bill went off to college, I'd be so excited when he was coming home that I would wait anxiously, staring out the front window around the time he was supposed to be home. And of course, he would be late. No cell phones at that time to know where he was. When Mom would send us to our room, he set up a train track between our rooms, and we'd send notes to each other on the train. And Bill always knew how to make things fun. When I rode along with him on the midnight shift in his police car in Gainesville, he once left me in an alley as he had to chase down criminals, and he told me to stay low, keep the doors locked, and don't get out of the car. Again, Bill always knew how to have fun. When Bill flew, this is when Bill started flying, when Bill flew Rich and I back to Gainesville one time, we were lost in some fog somewhere over Ocala. It set in quickly. Fortunately, he was on the radio, but he was not as experienced as he ended up being. But a commercial airline then came on and kind of told him where he was, and we made our way back and landed safely in Gainesville. Bill was like a superhero. Everything always turned out okay. I was recently reminded by several of my friends that when Bill was on strike from Eastern Airlines and walking the picket lines at the Orlando airport, my friends and I met him and brought him lunch. He was such a strong supporter of organized labor. We know where he got that from. The first time Bill was based in Chicago, we were his crash pad. At least once a week, he'd drive Joy and I downtown together and have coffee at Einstein Bagels, and then take us to work and drive home while he sat reserved. While having coffee one time, he suggested I need a raise and said he had called my boss, Scott, to inform him of such. I panicked. Because it was something he may have actually done. During this same period, more than 20 years ago, I came home from a trip and my garage was stacked all around my car with old windows. So much so that you could barely open the doors. There was an old Chicago building being torn down nearby, and he just couldn't stand the thought of those windows going to waste. I think some of those windows are still at their house today. When Sydney was born, he showed up at the hospital in the evening after everything had quieted down. He brought a six-pack of beer and some much-needed confidence and calm to a hectic day, and he made the most important day of my life even more special. Just a couple more here. I was at Wrigley one time with my friend Michael, and we were just at the game, and I knew he was coming in, and I saw the United, it's on the flight path, and I saw the plane coming over. So we just texted him, and and as soon as we texted him, he texted back a picture of the field that was going on, the game. So I guess I can say that now, because maybe he shouldn't be texting. But we'll keep that. Bill enjoyed taking my clothes from my closet without asking me and wearing them proudly. It was his way of sharing something with me, so I never minded. He always made unexpected visits to our home, and I'm sure to many people's homes. We never knew when he would show up. Just like my closet, my house was his house. I didn't mind sharing that with him either. And Bill showed up. When Bill did show up, you knew that he loved you. He was critical challenging, and loving. He would take the other side of a discussion just to make sure he really knew what you were talking about and that you were sure what you were talking about. I believe he was as hard on himself as he was on everyone else. Carla reminds me on occasion that I said to her at her wedding, "He is your problem now." But it wasn't true. He was all of our wonderful problem. Country music singer Cody Johnson sings, "Don't wait on tomorrow, because tomorrow may not show. Say your sorries, your I love yous, because man, you never know. If you got a chance, take it. Take it while you got a chance. If you got a dream, chase it, because a dream won't chase you back. If you're going to love somebody, hold them as long and as strong and as close as you can, until you can't." I'd like to think that I did hold him as long and as strong and as close as I could. Now that he's passed, and I think about the man I strive to be for our family, I see in Bill's legacy new inspiration for me, as my brother would do, and I hope to achieve. I will be generous with my time, energy, and resources. I will be kind to friends and strangers. I will fix things that are broken, literally and figuratively. I will embrace the humor in all things. I will be silly and wild while trying not to be tiring. I will be fiercely loyal to my friends and family. I will challenge others to bring out their best while exuding unconditional love. I will be confident, calm, and attract luck like a magnet. I will laugh loud and often. I will fly the friendly skies and strike up conversations with strangers. I will make noises of satisfaction when I eat good food, especially chicken wings and Chinese food. I will be impulsive and fun. I will love my mother with my full heart. When I am dealt a difficult hand or dying, I will protect my loved ones and fight with a strength that will make them proud. I will love and be loved, and the world will be a richer, better place for my having been here. I will forever be my brother's brother. Thank you all.
Beautiful. Okay, I think we need a little music. So I'd like to call up first cousin Amy Glass and daughter Alana, and wonderful son-in-law Garrett to accompany them. And the words are in the handout, Biado Avchid Ruchi, on page 3. Ladies.
My soul I give to you, my spirit in your care. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Hold me in your hand. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Safely in your hands. My soul I give to you, my spirit in your care. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Hold me in your hand. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Safely in your hand.
Bill was an extraordinary support and comfort, not only to his family, but to his many friends. And so at this time, I'd like to call up Mitch Nass to speak on behalf of the friends.
Can you hear me okay? Carl asked me to represent the friends and give a word about Bill. There's only one word I can say. He was late. He was always late. Always late. You know, he's a pilot. He flew people around the world on schedule, but he can't meet you at Sonny's barbecue on time. In fact, if Bill was going to attend this service, he'd be walking in just about now. But you know, when someone walks in a room and heads turn, and Bill just lit up the room. Everyone seemed privileged to see Bill. Through poker, Bill met such a diverse group of guys. Poker boys, can you raise your hand? Everyone, poker guys. Everyone who knows from poker. From New York cops to bank presidents to educators, Bill loved schmoozing with these guys. Bill was the king of schmoozing. He was so diverse, he could hold a conversation with anyone. Of course, because Bill was schmoozing, he was always late. And boy, was he competitive. Bill loved sports, especially baseball, huge Rays fan. So Bill, being pretty physically fit and he can play ball, he thought he would organize a team from this temple. The problem was Bill put us in a league playing against 6'3", 27-year-old UPS drivers, and we were 50-year-old, bald, heavy-set Jews who last played in college intramurals in 1979. The end of game one, Bill was very encouraging. The score was 18-2. The UPS drivers, good game, high five, good game, high five. And we were, oh, my groin, oh, my knee. Larry Feinberg, you're here, right? Is that right? Some of us had to go to the hospital that day. Bill also showed his competitiveness in Scrabble. From the time of his diagnosis, Bill became infatuated with Scrabble. We would meet 6:30 a.m. almost every morning. At my house, we had a coffee room. We'd play 2 games. Then in the afternoon, he would play his beloved mom, Fran. And frequently, he'd play his kids, or Joy, or Andy. During our early games, Bill wanted no time limit. If it was Bill's last turn in a game, he would never give up. I would leave the table, go eat breakfast, take a shower, return, and Bill would be saying, I know there's a word here somewhere. Then he had to call his two idiot savant Scrabble cousins, Mitch and Jeff. Are they here, Mitch and Jeff? Raise your hand, Mitch and Jeff. There you go. These guys would figure out the word in 30 seconds, and that would bother Bill the rest of the day. You know, he was just upset about that. But my last word for Bill, which was mentioned earlier, was the word mensch. When there was a hurricane, Bill was there fixing Maurice's dock. When another friend was too sick to walk downstairs, Bill carried him to his car and took him to the hospital. Bill would help anyone at any time. For those who don't know the Yiddish word mensch, it means someone to admire and emulate, someone of great character, a good soul. And Bill, if you're keeping score, mensch is a Scrabble word. It's worth 15 points. Late is worth 8 points, competitive 24 points, and schmoozing with a Z and on the triple word, AZ 7 points. Scrabble as you did in life. Bill, you did great.
Oh my goodness. Oh. Sam.
Thank you all for being here with us today. I am so grateful for the physical reminder of Dad's impact on so many lives. I often reflect on the day Pete and I got married. At the reception, Dad surprised me with an unconventional song for our father-daughter dance. As the opening bars of Elton John's Circle of Life from The Lion King played, I understood he was reminding me this was one of the happy times, but sad and challenging times are part of the ride too. It is hard to believe we are all being confronted by that lesson so soon. Prior to his glioblastoma diagnosis, I think we all just assumed we'd have so much more time. Just after his first surgery, Dad, Mom, Alex, and I found ourselves together. We were all emotional, as you can imagine, and Dad said, "Well, if it has to happen to one of us, I'm glad it's me. But I really wish this was happening to someone I don't know." Leave it to Dad to still have a sense of humor about cancer. I am grateful that despite the many losses and the deep sadness of watching his incredible brain be altered over the last year and a half, we were and are still laughing at his jokes. Many people have reached out this week with moving and funny Bill Bear stories. What a joy to share some of him with all of you. I have also been thinking about all the people he impacted over the course of his life and career who never knew his name. I'm thinking about the gentleman in Gainesville who Dad didn't give a traffic ticket because he couldn't afford to pay, the students at West Shore that used Dad and Mom's handmade science boards long after Alex and I graduated, and the thousands of passengers on flights who made it to their loved ones safely and on time because he creatively solved an issue or decided to ride in the jump seat instead of in the cabin. I distinctly remember a story he told us about a Great Dane that was flying with her military family to Korea on United. She was supposed to be in the cargo hold, but somehow the crate fell off the conveyor belt onto the tarmac. Fortunately, Annie the dog was unharmed in the fall, but her crate was destroyed. Another captain might have decided to delay the flight to wait for another crate or to ask the family to fly later. Instead, Dad took responsibility and moved the bulkhead passengers to first class, put Annie's family in those seats, and had her fly in the cabin with them. He told us after he got home that nothing made him happier than stopping by the bulkhead to pet that sweet dog while they were in the air. I know he made decisions like that all the time at work and in his life, selflessly helping others because it was the right thing to do. In the same vein, I want to recognize all those strangers who treated Dad with compassion and dignity without knowing he had a brain tumor. To name a few, they helped him navigate the L in Chicago, find his hotel in Frankfurt when he was lost, shifted their seats at lacrosse games so he could have a better view, and shared stories of solidarity when Dad would eventually take off his baseball cap and explain he had a brain problem. To all these anonymous people, thank you. Along with our dear family and friends, we are grateful to them for keeping Dad safe and as independent as possible until the end. When given the opportunity in your own lives, please remember Dad and try to treat everyone you meet with kindness and respect, remembering that they may be dealing with challenges we can't discern. Dad will also be remembered for his many opinions and his willingness to dispense them at any time and to anyone, whether family, friend, or stranger, solicited or unsolicited. After his diagnosis, it was a privilege for him to let me be part of his medical team. Sometimes he would call me and say, "I'm calling to talk to my doctor, not my daughter." Usually these conversations involve me sharing my medical knowledge with him and him sharing what his doctors could be doing, how cancer research could be designed, and about all the things medicine could learn from aviation. The way he lived after his diagnosis is a beautiful testament to the loyal, caring, generous person he was. Just like before, he spent time with beloved family and friends, played Scrabble as long as he could, enjoyed delicious meals. He also took on many house and yard projects, and Mom, Alex, and I all knew he was trying to make things easier for us after he was gone. Just like Alex told us, always doing a little more so we could do a little less. He always tried to protect and encourage me in his own way. One of my earliest memories of this happened in first grade. Mom and Dad had decided I was old enough to bike home alone from elementary school all of 1 mile. The big day arrived, and I remember being on my bike feeling so brave and grown up. When I was almost home, a bigger kid on their bike ran me off the sidewalk. I swerved onto the grass, shaken up but unscathed. Suddenly, someone was yelling at this kid from behind me about how he shouldn't do that to the younger kids. I remember turning my head to see Dad in our truck on the road. Unbeknownst to me, he'd been following me home. I love that he wanted me to be independent and to know I could do anything, but he also wasn't going to let me fail or get hurt if he could help it. Some part of me always knew if he could just be driving in my blind spot forever, that's where he would be, and that's how I'd like to picture him now. Last September, when we knew Dad's team was stopping his clinical trial, the 4 of us gathered in Winchester for a few days. One night by the fire, when it was just the 2 of us, I asked Dad about his wishes for after he was gone. He told me his only wish was for us to love each other. This sole request is fitting, since he has always made me, Alex, Mom, and many others feel so loved. As we try to move forward, please honor him and celebrate his legacy by loving each other. Dad, you are so missed. I love you.
When I think of Bill, I think of twinkling bright eyes. I think as soon as Bill met me in 2003, when he picked me up at the airport to bring me in for my first interview to be the spiritual leader of this temple, I knew I was in trouble. He pegged me right away as a very teasable person, and teased I was. I adored Bill and his precious family right away, and feel blessed that I was able to be a small part of their glowing orbit for so many years. I myself was comforted by Carla when she shared with me what Bill told her over these past weeks and months as he started to succumb to the terrible illness that took him. In reflecting on his legacy, he said that he had a good life. He taught so many people. There were so many good things that he did. He wanted to live on in your minds, just like we talk about our loved ones who are gone. He wanted you all to think about how he impacted you. To Carla, he wanted her and the girls to look at the beautiful world he made for them, all that he created with his hands for them. When I think of Bill, I'm reminded of a very beautiful story. Once there was a student who was with a teacher for many years, and when the teacher felt he was going to die, he wanted to make even his death a lesson. That night, the teacher took a torch, called his student, and set off with him through the forest. And soon they reached the middle of the woods, where the teacher extinguished the torch without explanation. "What is the matter?" asked the student. "This torch has gone out," the teacher answered, and walked on. "But," shouted the student, his voice plucking with fear, "will you leave me here in the dark?" "No, I will not leave you in the dark," returned his teacher's voice from the surrounding blackness. "I will leave you searching for the light." Bill's life was filled with light. May his memories be blessings filled with radiance. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he would have wanted. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. Amen. Let's take a moment of silent meditation and some nice deep breaths. I invite up Holly Del Valle, who will sing for us a beautiful poem, Yesh Kochavim.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we love. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember.
In your handout on page 3, let us read responsively in the rising of the sun. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember him.
In the blowing of the winds and in the chill of winter, we remember him.
In the opening buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember him.
In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember him.
In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember him.
In the beginning of the year and when it
When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember him.
So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him.
We rise now for the El Male Rachamim, which is a prayer asking God to take the soul of our beloved.
And before I sing this greatest of prayers, I just want to say that the rabbi and I, over the years, whenever we've done a funeral or memorial, we come home enriched. We come home with pieces of people. And this is like an incredible thing. 3 comments. Mitch Nass, I do miss your humor. The inappropriate jokes just before Yom Kippur. And I don't go to bars much anymore, but when I do, I always check to be sure I do not have a duck on my head. The reference to pork rinds, not a problem. Even a great tzaddik such as myself, I have succumbed, but only when the rabbi is out of town. And finally, seriously, thank you for Gibran. You see, I read that passage at my father's funeral, and my 2 daughters each have a copy to read together at mine. It could not have been more appropriate and more beautiful. Thank you for that.
במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוכר הרקיע מעבירים את נשמות וולפלי בן משה ופגל שהלך עולמו בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו לכן בעל הרחמים הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור רגעים את נשמתו אדוני הוא נחלתו וינוח
ושלום על משכבו.
May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our eyes to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that we might glimpse in perfect peace and sadness the way of all things. May Wulflieb ben Moshe Fagel, William Lewis Baer, may his memory be for us a blessing. And may we never let the light of his love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all his worthy and righteous deeds, that his memory be forever bound up in the bond of life. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. May Bill's death awaken us to this truth, that the bond of life we shared and share not be severed in sorrow. Al mikomo yavo v'shalom. May he rest in peace. And together we say, Amen. Amen. Please be seated. We now come to the mourner's Kaddish, yet there is no mention of grief or the deceased in this prayer. It is a praise of God. It is the most grounding prayer that I know. It connects us to the Eternal One and all the souls, past, present, and future, who comprise our universe. There is comfort in saying it, knowing that it links us to all those who have suffered and loved. We are taught that the Kaddish helps to elevate the soul of our beloved. So today we praise God for the loved ones who have been part of our lives, and we carry on their stories through the blessing of memory. If you are comfortable, you can rise to say this prayer and join the mourners as we praise the Holy One of all blessings, the God of great compassion, the One. And the prayer is in your handout. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'olma divarach Yeruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyomechon, uvchaye dekol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehe shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran be'olma v'imru amen. Yehe shalama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imrumav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Oseh shalom b'imrumav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world, to which we say,
Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Lech ki shelachacha Adonai. Go your way, for God has called you. Lech v'Adonai yiyeh imach, Go your way and may God be with you. V'halach lefanecha tzidkecha, kevod Adonai asvecha. May your righteousness go before you, and the glory of God receive you. Amen. This concludes our service, but certainly the stories need to be told and told and told. So please join us in the social hall behind you for a meal of condolence. I would ask if you would please let the family exit first to the social hall, and please follow behind so we can all say our prayer of motzi together over the bread and enjoy the company of our love and feelings for this very special day and this very special man. Amen.